The basement. For most of us, it's just a storage space, a place to keep the things we've forgotten. But for some, it's something else. It's where the darkness gathers, where buried fears lie, and where sometimes, they crawl out. The stories you are about to hear are not fiction. They are the real experiences of people who ventured down those stairs and almost never came back up. These are 5 scary, true basement horror stories. It started in 2007. I was about 12 years old, and my family was on a trip to Kissimmee, Florida. We went with cousins and family friends, which made the trip even more fun. At the resort, we loved spending time at the kids' club. It was like a little paradise, always games, crafts, and group activities. The man in charge of us was a director named Dan. He was in his 40s, very tall and thin, and had lost quite a bit of his hair. Looking back now, I'm amazed at how careless and unaware of danger I was as a child. If I met this guy now, I wouldn't even want to stand 5 feet from him. But at 12, I thought he was great, just a fun adult running the activities. One day, we were told that Dan would be leaving the hotel for a week. No one explained why, and at the time, I didn't care. On our last day at the hotel, I lost my cell phone. It was a bright blue LG chocolate. I told my parents, and my mom was furious. It was the second phone I'd lost that year. She said if I didn't find it, I was grounded. So, I ran all over the hotel. I even went to the kids' club. Normally, the place was packed with kids. But this time, it was eerily silent and empty. Dan was the only one there, sitting alone on a sofa. I walked up and asked, "Hey Dan, have you seen my phone?" Dan looked at me and said, "Oh, so that's your phone?" "Yeah, I found it and put it in the lost and found in the basement. It's a bit of a walk, but come with me, I'll show you where it is." At that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything else. I just wanted my phone back. I followed Dan without question, as he led me to the back of the hotel. We walked for about 3 minutes, until we reached a stairwell leading down. This was an area with no one else around. The walls were bare, unpainted concrete. It looked more like a storage area, than a place for lost and found. It was dark, and it gave me an uneasy feeling. Dan nodded and held the door, gesturing for me to go down the stairs. For a split second, I was about to step forward, but then something inside me suddenly woke up. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was fear. I felt, deep down, that something was wrong. Before Dan could say or do anything, I yelled, "Never mind." I think I left it with my mom, and ran from the stairwell back to the main lobby. I was genuinely terrified. After I calmed down, I went to the front reception desk and asked where the lost and found was. The kind woman at the desk told me, "The lost and found is right here at her desk." She asked what I lost, and when I described the phone, she smiled and pulled it from a box under the desk. "Someone turned it in earlier," she said. I asked again, "Wait, so you're saying the lost and found isn't in the basement?" She looked at me kindly and said, "No, sweetie. The basement is actually under construction right now." Hearing that, my stomach dropped. I realized just how close I had come to real danger. I'm 26 now, and I still wonder, what would have happened if I had gone down into that basement with Dan? My parents divorced in 1997, when I was about 7. My mom moved us into my grandparents' old house. We lived there for about 5 years, me, my mom, my 2 older sisters, and our dog. The house had 3 floors. The top floor where we slept, and the basement. The basement was the scariest place in the entire house. My heart would pound every time I had to go down there. A few times a week, you could hear it. Slow footsteps, walking up from the basement. They would pause for a moment on the first floor, and then continue up to the second. Then, the footsteps would stop. Sometimes at my older sister's room. Sometimes outside mine. We all heard it. My mom hated talking about it, as if ignoring it would make it go away. Our dog never went into the basement. He hated it as much as we did. Then one evening, my sisters and I were playing with walkie-talkies, trying to find the local police channel. Suddenly, a voice came over the walkie-talkie. It was different, clear and much closer. Almost like it was in the room with us. It said all sorts of strange things. But the thing that terrified us the most was when it spoke directly to my oldest sister. It said it was going to hurt her, and it even said her name. We shut off the walkie-talkies in horror. Less than a minute later, our dog ran into the room, barking wildly at nothing. He was staring at the corner of the room, growling and barking at the empty space, as if he was protecting us from something we couldn't see. Another time, it was just me and my mom at home. I was playing in my room on the second floor. Suddenly I heard loud footsteps coming from the basement. The sound was so loud it was as if someone was running up the stairs, very heavy. The footsteps came right up to just outside my room and stopped. Out of nowhere, my bedroom door slammed shut so hard. I screamed and started crying. My mom heard it and ran upstairs. She tried to open the door but it wouldn't budge. It was as if it was locked from the inside. But that door didn't even have a lock. My mom yelled for me to stay calm, while she ran downstairs to get tools to break the door down. And then, just as suddenly, the door unlocked itself, and swung open. We lived in that house until 2002. Years have passed, but I still wonder, if there was something about that house, we will never understand. I lived in a pretty big house for about 10 years. And my dad always told me not to go into the basement at night. Even during the day, if I had to go down, someone always went with me. The basement was dark, even with the lights on. My dad was the bravest person I knew, but I noticed that whenever he went into the basement, he always took our dog, Max, with him. Around 2012, I had a friend sleep over. My friend came up with a plan for us to go into the basement, even though my dad forbade it. We waited until my dad and sisters were asleep. We went down. The floor was cold and hard. We brought flashlights. There were about 3 bedrooms down there, a bathroom, and the laundry. My dad always told me not to go into 2 of the rooms. He said it was because there was glass inside. But I decided to ignore that. We went into the first bedroom, but it was full of boxes and storage. Pretty boring. We decided to check the next room. And that's when things started to get weird. As soon as we stepped in, we heard some noises. We thought it might be my dad, so we froze. The noise stopped. We left that room and went to the laundry room, which led to the bathroom. I went into the bathroom, and the medicine cabinet mirror was open. I didn't think much of it and just closed it. Suddenly, my friend pulled on my shirt and said he thought he heard my dad coming down the stairs. I got ready to be in trouble and called out, "Dad." No one was there. I thought my friend was messing with me. But then, we heard more noises, coming from the second room we had been in. I turned to look, but instead, I saw the furnace door was open. I went to close it, but my friend said he had a weird feeling, so he stood at the doorway. After I closed the door, I turned around, and my friend's face was white. He was pointing, behind me. I turned. And I saw a dark figure. We both screamed as loud as we could and ran for the stairs. My friend was in front and I was right behind him. We could hear the figure running up the stairs after us. When we got to the top, we slammed the door shut. All the noise woke up my dad. We told him what happened. He said that he had asked a friend to come over and hide in the basement to see if I would break the rules. But 5 years later, my dad told me the truth. It wasn't his friend. He said the house was haunted. He just didn't want to tell me at the time, because he didn't want to scare me. When I was in grad school, I worked weekends for a junk removal company. Our job was to clear out old furniture, broken appliances, anything people wanted to throw away. We mostly worked in nice neighborhoods. Even though we had to go into strangers' houses all the time, I never felt unsafe. Until one afternoon. We got a job that felt like the start of a bad horror movie. We drove down a long driveway. When we got out, my coworker and I started filling out paperwork. After we finished, we looked up. And the client was standing right outside the driver's window, staring into our truck. He hadn't said a word. We didn't even notice him approach. He was tall, broad, but he also wore glasses, had pale skin, gray hair, and was slightly hunched. He kept his hands behind his back the entire time. When he finally spoke, his voice was very quiet, almost a whisper. He didn't seem threatening, but the way he stood there so silently felt wrong. And going into his house only made it feel worse. The house had the same creepy feeling as its owner. It was dark inside, very little light, and completely silent. It was obvious he lived alone. Everything in the house, the decor, the furniture, looked like it was from the 1970s. Now, the weirdest part was an empty indoor swimming pool in the middle of the house. To make matters worse, the item he wanted us to take was in the furthest corner of his basement. We explained how to book the appointment, gave him the written estimate, and got out of that basement as fast as we could. When we got back to the truck, I turned to my coworker immediately and said, "I am not coming back to this man's house, if he decides to book the job." My coworker agreed with me. He also thought there was something definitely strange about the man, and felt uneasy the whole time. It was just this feeling of wrongness. I believe we all have instincts, and that day, I probably should have listened to mine. On August 6th, I was in my mom's basement doing laundry. My boyfriend was away on a business trip, so we were on FaceTime. I had propped my phone up on a bottle of laundry detergent, so he could see me. As I was bending over, he saw something behind me, and told me to move out of the way. Then he took a screenshot of what he saw. He waited until I was upstairs before he sent it to me. I guess he didn't want to scare me. But when he sent the picture, I swear, there was a face in the background. He said he didn't edit the photo, and I believe him. A few days later, I was at my boyfriend's house. We were both sick. But when I woke up, I felt really uneasy. Like someone was watching us. Later, back at my house, I was lying in my bed talking to my little sister. I happened to look up, and I saw a cross on the ceiling. No big deal, right? Well, from where I was lying, the cross was upside down. Seeing that upside-down cross made my blood run cold. It felt like all my fears were suddenly real. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was in my house was trying to tell me something dark. I immediately called my boyfriend. He tried to calm me down, but I could hear the anxiety in his voice. I decided I wasn't sleeping alone. I stayed in my sister's room, hoping it would help me feel safer. But the feeling of being watched never really left. It was the first time I truly felt like I was up against something I didn't understand, something that seemed determined to terrify me. The basement. For some, it's just storage and dust. But for others, it's a threshold. A thin barrier between our world and whatever is waiting below. These stories remind us that sometimes the best doors are the ones left closed. Have you ever had a scary experience in your basement? Comment your story below. I read them all.